Thank you, Anurag, for inviting me here. Uh, I'm honored, privileged to be among the August gathering here. I think this is not the session one should prefer to start interactioning because post-lunch sessions are normally sessions where one intends to take a short nap, and very few people can develop that art of keeping your eyes open and take a nap sitting in the chair. But thank you again. Uh, in fact, we are here today to discuss about business literature and the impact business literature is making on the uh, society, industry, governance. Of course, I'll uh, talk in detail in our conversation about the book. But what I want to put in is the book Building Bridges is our experiences in trying to bring some change in India's delivery system. And that book is just a sharing of that experiences, record that experiences so that, our engineers, our bureaucrats, our budding politicians, or whosoever are part of the system or want to be part of the system, they should start believing that there are a lot of things we can do, we can bring the change in. Only thing is we need to believe and we need to be passionate enough uh, so that we don't, start accepting the excuses. I would put that in those many words. So this book is more about that journey. Uh, we all experienced, we have been hearing a recent incidents of bridge falling in Morbi. So these are the incidences we have seen so many times. There was one incident in Maharashtra in 2015 uh, on a Mumbai-Goa highway. The old bridge washed away, and in the middle of the night, because of the sudden heavy rainfall, there was a flood, and the bridge washed away, and the entire bus, driver could not see that the bridge has been washed away. Then entire bus was washed away, and so many people died, and so much of tragedy we are hearing in India and outside India as well. So we thought that when when I was working in the government with the Ministry of Road Transport and Highway as minister's private secretary, minister was disturbed by these incidents, and he said, next day he went to that place and he said, that's my responsibility. I am the minister for road transport highways, and I personally feel guilty about what has happened. And he announced that we will build this bridge in 6 months. And the bridge was built in 165 days. But the next thing what we thought is the bridge collapsed. We built the bridge in a record time. But what we can do so that these kind of incidences doesn't happen again and again. And when we started, looking at those ideas, you will be surprised when we started digging about the information. We didn't had any database which would suggest that there are how many bridges on national highway. We didn't had any record. We didn't had any database. There are 1 lakh, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, no number. So the first thing we had to begin was, can we have a detailed database of our structures on our national highway? Of course, as I said, this is only one example of so many things that happens in delivery and governance in the government. But what I'm saying, this one example will probably help understand people. There are so many things to do and things which are very simple. For example, this collection of database used to happen every 5 years in the government. एक एजेंसी लगती थी, वो इतना सारा कोठड़ी जमा करती थी, एंड दैट यूज्ड टू बी यू नो प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ द स्टोरेज. धूल खाता हुआ पड़ता था वहां पेपर सारा. There was no effort bringing in technology so that the database is updated, that database is up to the mark. So, we started from there. The database survey was made online in terms of, real time rather, not online, real time. So the surveyor engineers used to take the tab, go to that place, enter the data. Once they enter the data in real time, they cannot change that data. If at all data needs to be updated or some correction needs to be done, it used to happen at the control center. So many uh, technologies that are easily available. It's not a technological revolution that we tried to do. What we tried to do is put things together to ensure that it brings us a lot of solutions, simplicity in governance and delivery. So the whole idea was to bring that, to everybody's understanding, so that, there is always a cynicism in government, both in terms of people perceiving about government and the people working in the government, that things cannot change. ये नहीं हो सकता is the very common, attitude you will find talking to anybody in government, or anybody who is working with government, or anybody, you know, uh, so that's a very common cynicism. But we thought, why don't we kind of share this experience, that very simple, same team of engineers, same team of officers, same people could do things which can be for the betterment of the whole society. So we put things together and created an Indian bridge management system. Now, this Indian bridge management system is the first online database along with the necessary information for structures on the highways. And that's the first online database in the world. Even US database was not online and real time. And this is the largest database in the world today. We have, I think, counted more than 1,65,000 bridges, small, big, all. So it's not only about database. Of course, I don't want to take much time in this explanation. In conversation, I'll try to share some examples. How this database can be then useful for a better management of bridges. And the ultimate objective is to provide better services to the users and people, because I think that's the crux and key. So I think this whole book is about sharing those experiences. I'll be more than happy to share more examples and thoughts when we converse further. Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Anurag and your team, for inviting me here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to moderate this session, please welcome Mr. B. Tyagarajan, Managing Director of Blue Star Limited.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Two initial remarks. In Tirukural, there is one word which says, like that, which is when you don't have anything to listen through your ears, little food can be taken. And I suppose in the short break, you could enjoy some lunch. Compliments to Business World Group for organizing this unique, extraordinary and rich festival of business literature. Last week, Mr. Dr. Batra, when he told me about the event, one sentence resonates with me, that he said, numerous events are happening that I have a great professional satisfaction. This particular event is for the fulfillment of my heart. And you can, I could see extraordinary glow in his face when he went on to put together in, I think in half an hour between the breaks. He was working overnight to put together a program. Compliments to him and his team. Um, Vaibhav, I start with um, this particular book. It is about a very serious subject, and but you managed to do it in a storytelling form. Where that inspiration comes from?
Thank you. You're right. When my co-author, Mr. Satyanan Joshi, and we were, putting our thoughts together when we agreed to, pen down our experiences. We thought that why would somebody like to read what we did? For example, why would somebody like to read Indian bridge management system develop? And how does it how does we make it interesting? So we were having interactions, and I had a lot of influence during my education time. I came from a very small place and studied almost till my higher school in mother tongue, Marathi language. So when I went for a higher education and was doing my MBA, my director told me to improve your, various soft skills, including your English, vocabulary, presentation. So he said, why don't you start reading some good books so that it helps you, uh, evolve better. And so he had suggested me author Arthur Haley. And as you all may be knowing, Arthur Haley writes about one subject. And it's a very interesting way of conveying those messages. For example, his airport, his powerhouses, his wheels, his so many. There's detective. So in a way, you understand the entire, idea of what's happening at airport or what a detective does. But that's in a very simple storytelling novel format. And actually, there are a lot of management learnings in each of his books. So, as I said, those were the first English books I started reading. So it has a lot of influence on my thought process. So that's how we thought that we will put in our experiences in a novel format, so that people will read it as a story, so that it's become a bit interesting for a common man, because nobody will like to understand ye bridge kya hota hai, structure kya hota hai, why a bridge needs to be maintained, how it is need to be maintained, why do we need a database to do it. But probably that story will create that connect, and hopefully it has done that purpose.
Yes, sir, it does. It's in an interesting storytelling form. Tell me, the young generation consume in small bites, and also generally, rather than the books, films do a better job. Did you attempt to get this book, what is contained in the book, through any of the television documentaries also? Say, for example, History Channel or National Geography on bridges, there are quite a few that has happened. Whether Doordarshan or Discovery, somebody is attempting to do this.
Not specifically on the book, but we did try to motivate, like for example, History Channel did a 3 episode special series on engineering marvels and how the engineering marvels are making new monuments for India, modern marvels for India. So I think, yes, as you rightly said, audio visual is an impactful medium, and these days youngsters, not only youngsters, probably everybody are keen to look at that medium as a more interactive and more satisfying medium. To take that effort forward, I have been interacting with Discovery, and I have been suggesting them that you have been showcasing, you have almost 54 million viewership in India, and you have been showcasing international, mega cities, mega projects and things like that. Why don't you do something which showcase how India is making a global mark in these areas? So they said, we'll be more than happy to do it, but as it happens, who will do it, who will fund it, and things like that. So I'm happy to share. I'm working with Discovery and developing a series which tells a unique stories of India's these modern infrastructure monuments in all aspects of infrastructure, whether it is railway, highway, ports, waterways, urban transport, metros. And that series will be named as Build India. And that series is a 12-episode series which Discovery will be starting very soon. And
Great.
I happen to curate that series, and I'll also anchor the series.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So
Thanks.
that brings me to one question. By bridges, you mean only the bridges on the river, or it may include the flyover as well?
See, in technical terms, they are called structures. So structure means everything. And effectively, bridge means any bridge. In fact, the database which we have developed, this Indian Bridge Management System database, is a database of not only flyovers or river bridges or railway bridges, but they are effectively including the culverts and the small bridges.
So you mean to say that is that famous statement of Mr. Nitin Gadkari, or it is a very bold statement, which I call it as burning one's own bridge, saying in the parliament, out of 1,67,000 bridges, 100 are on the verge of collapse. It requires extraordinary guts to say that and accept it and declare that we will set it right. Now, 1,67,000, you are saying it includes every form of the bridges.
Yeah, all forms of it. Culverts
And,
to the larger bridges.
And 147 he had listed that time in the verge of collapse, and that list will be growing or reducing. That will come to later. When on 30th October, Morbi news, when a great tragedy, what was your first reaction?
Very unfortunate, very tragic. In fact, as you said, Minister made a statement in Parliament based on the data which Indian Bridge Management System thrown up, that there are around 147 bridges which need to be immediately. The whole idea of that management system was to create that information database, a management information system, where agencies can start planning in advance, in future, and looking at what needs to be done, because there will be bridges which needs immediate attention. There will be bridges which need a very minor maintenance. Some bridges will need complete you'll have to get down that bridges and build a new one. For example, there is a bridge on river Ganga in Patna city, and that's a lifeline between two parts of Bihar. And that bridge was so became old, but the piers were very good. So a technology was brought in where the entire deck was broken. The entire deck was destroyed, and the new deck has been built, and then bridge is operational. So there are a lot of other these kind of things that are required. But as you rightly said, what happened in Morbi or what happened in Mumbai, Goa, or before that in Partapi, Daman.
I think the Daman Ganga is
Daman Ganga,
same,
yeah.
similar.
Similar. So, the real question that comes to my mind is, are we still not equipped or capable enough to stop these human tragedies? And when you look at these things, I think in terms of technology, I don't think we are behind anybody. In terms of construction material, in terms of methodologies,
I don't think even funds
engineering
is an issue.
So I think the whole issue is about the mindset.
Attitude.
And doing things in a right manner. I'll share you one very interesting example. You know how this thought of putting this Indian bridge management system together came into place. As you said, Minister was attending similar one conference. It was a business conference on logistics and making businesses easier. So after his session, in a question answer, somebody raised a hand and said, Minister, can I ask you a question? And he said, please. He said, sir, I am CMD of BHEL, BHEL. And you spoke about logistic efficiency. You spoke about making our businesses competitive globally. And he said, when I build a power plant to deliver my, units to the site location, it takes almost same amount of time which takes me to build that plant in my factory. And sorry, but unfortunately, it is your ministry which makes sure that it takes 2 years for me to reach to one place to other, or 1 year to reach to one place to other. So minister was surprised, stunned. But as you said, as the bold nature he is, he said, please come to me and please explain me how it's happening. And then we tried to understand, this large size, it's called as OWC, overweight cargo, and oversized cargo, ODC, over-dimensional cargo. So when those kind of cargos are carried, the trucks and the trailers of huge size, 200 wheels, 150 wheels, 300 wheels. So when they cross the bridges, there is an impact on bridges. So there was a system in the government that anybody who wants to take that goods from a highway or a bridge, they have to do a conditional survey of that bridge, submit the report to the government, then government will approve that,
Manual process.
And post movement of the goods, he has to again do a survey and submit the report. And this used to be a huge amount of cost, resources, energy, time. And imagine if he's traveling from, say, Mumbai to Calcutta for 2,000 kilometers, he'll probably cross 10,000 small big bridges. And the amount of money he has to spend on this. So with this Indian bridge management system, we made it online. You have to apply.
Remarkable work from the business community. We know that.
Yeah.
I have just couple of questions. I think the time is up. Accolades for this book is remarkable. Yeah, a very serious subject, storytelling mode, short format for many students, practicing engineers to learn, so on and so forth. In terms of criticism, like for example, bureaucrats would have got upset that you're writing about the flaws in the system, who is doing the job, who is not doing the job. The second, I suppose, is the ministry is blowing its own trumpet, like the coffee table books companies like ours come out with, or for that matter, the very fact that this book could have had much more pictures than it contains. What are those criticisms?
No, I think criticism are always good for improvement. So I really appreciate those kind of people have given suggestions. But as you rightly said, the whole idea was to share the good practices more than to criticize anybody. So the whole idea and the effort are probably objective, and thought we tried to put it in the book was less of a criticism and more of a systemic improvements there where we can probably intervene. And that's why we tried to be as personal as we can. So, wherever there was a systematic flaw or our experiences helped us understand those flaws can be improved. Those kind of experiences we have tried to put in. And
in other words, you ignore the criticisms of any nature because your purpose is
to large extent, but over a period when book actually was published and people saw the book, in fact, the apprehension has gone down drastically. In fact, a lot of my colleagues who were in the ministry at that time thought that, probably you will criticize some officer or other. So as I said, our objective was not to criticize X or Y. Our objective was to try to,
correct,
share the experiences, help us. In fact, as I said, this book is very useful book for a budding bureaucrat who joins the service and try to, learn his lessons through.
Understood. Tell me what is your, this is perhaps last question, your view about India's future in infrastructure and the bridges.
No, I think the India's infrastructure growth is phenomenal, and I think I don't need to say it again, from 10, 11 kilometers of highways to 40 kilometer of highways per day from 75 airports to 150 airports. So I think that numbers are self-explanatory and the growth is phenomenal. The biggest, I think, satisfying part of the whole journey is in last 7-8 years, most of this infrastructure development has done by Indian companies, Indian engineers, and Indian entrepreneurs. So the technology, of course, was brought in wherever required. For example, Indian companies are making world records. For example, 2 highway world records, Guinness World Record are made by Indian companies. So I think India has that enough capability developed in last 7-8 years. In fact, 500 new infrastructure companies has come up in this country. So I think that's the real positive silver line of the.
So you are very optimistic about it.
Very much. In
Okay.
terms of technological development, as I said, for example, I'll just take another 10 seconds. For example, to save this kind of Morbi kind of tragedy, there are almost 10 young engineers, IIT graduates. They have developed a smart structural health monitoring systems, which are sensor based, and you will get a data on your mobile continuously. So authorities can continuously monitor these structures. And fortunately, the government has proactively immediately asked them to, start adopting those technology in India. I think these are all homegrown. Young boys have developed this technology. So I think that's the positive sign of this.
So on that note, we will end this conversation.
you.
I think we may not have time for question and answers. The people may have to interact with you and get it. And let us hope and pray that we will not have a tragedy like Morbi in the near future. Congratulations on the book and your next venture with Discovery Channel. All the best to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank